So at this point, we welcome the student leaders, Sam and Jessica, to start out the meeting, and welcome all of our attendees.
So hey everybody. So we're just gonna wait for maybe another 2 minutes for folks to join. So while we're waiting for folks, if we could go to the next slide. So while we wait for folks to join, we're gonna watch a really awesome hand washing dance video that everybody could like join along and watch. So if you could start playing the video. We'll wait for more folks to join. Okay, so thank you for folks for joining. I think we're going to get started now. So hello everybody, my name is Samantha. I also prefer to be called Sam. I'm the ACC Media Director, and ACC, ACC stands for All City Council Student Union. Hello. And there are 11 board members. We represent students all over the district. We're also here to civically engage students and to be able to encourage students to really advocate for themselves and really shift power back to us. So if we can go to the next slide, the third slide. Okay, so the overview of the agenda and the guidelines, we'll be hearing from our superintendent and other folks from the district. Some guidelines that we have for this session, we are in a webinar style of Zoom, and so you are muted once you're joined. And there will be a chance for folks to join and ask their questions towards the end when we do a Q&A. So you'll be able to still type your question in the Zoom chat box or raise your hand to be called on. Or you can even join our live, which is on Instagram. You can comment or DM. We'll be keeping track of these questions. And I'll pass it to Jessica.
Hello, everyone. I am the All City Council Health and Wellness Director. I am Jessica Ramos. I attend Skyline High School. Can we go ahead and go to the next slide? The goals of the webinar is to share the impact on academics during this time, to answer questions from students generated before the meeting, and to allow students to ask additional questions. Next slide, please. So we're gonna go ahead and introduce who is our panelists. Can we go ahead and introduce the students, our student directors? Micah Smith-Dahl. Can you just go ahead and wave? And Denelson Garibo. Dwayne Davis. Myself. And Samantha, as you guys heard. Oh God. Okay, can we go ahead and now introduce our superintendent, Kyla Johnson-Trammell. Sandra Aguilera, who's the Chief Academic Officer. Lucia Mortiz, who's a high school network superintendent. Vin Trin, who's a manager in master scheduling comprehensive student supports. And Elizabeth Paniguawa, post-secondary readiness coordinator, high school links learn officer. So I'm gonna go and pass it to Denelson and Micah, who are gonna share quick words about the about their experience with the student union.
Good morning, y'all. It is such an honor to be here today. And I'm one of the 2 student directors. I represent the 36,000 students in our district. Still feels amazing to say that. And just here to just answer all the questions that all of our students have been wondering, and all of their parents as well. I know a lot of us have a lot going on at home, and just appreciate everyone for being here and still, being engaged with us. Micah, do you have anything you want to say?
I'm just kind of figuring out how to work this. But yeah, I'm Micah. I'm the other student director. Just as Denelson said, super honored to, be in this position where I can, try to uplift, students' voices and whatever the students' questions are. I think especially in this times, it is so important because, it's so stressful and everything going on. It's really a time of a lot of change happening, and I think that it's super important to make sure that everybody is in the loop, especially our students have been left a little bit confused, especially me as a senior. So I think that just honestly, thank you guys so much for coming out and trying to participate in this Zoom call. We're trying to do this shelter in place, so doing these things online is a little bit interesting, but we try. So thank you guys so much. Hope we can answer your guys' questions today.
Thank you, student directors. There was a actual webinar with health and wellness, with myself and health and wellness professionals. This was on Tuesday, March 24th. Many students were able to be there. That was a quick update of what's going on. Today, we're gonna focus on the academic and answering your students' questions about what is gonna go down with our future. So I'll go ahead and pass it to our superintendent.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here this morning. I just want to give a special shout out and appreciation, 1, to all the students, 2, specifically to Michael, to Denelson, Dwayne, Jessica, Samantha, for kind of leading this online session. As you all know, it's a lot of logistics behind the scene to get this going, so I appreciate everybody. And I'm hoping this will be one of several just kind of check-ins and open conversation. I'm so glad that the students asked to have this conversation because, as we've been saying, this is a very unique situation that no one in the country has ever experienced before. So, you know, we're all just trying to figure it out together. And to me, whenever there's something new going on that causes anxiety and fear and stress, which we're all feeling, it's just important to have opportunities to dialogue and to talk. And so that's really what this session is for. I want to thank Sandra and Lucia and other members of the high school leadership posse for joining to be able to answer the questions that we know. There probably will be questions you all will ask that we do not have answers for right now. Earlier this morning, I had my chief of staff on the call with folks around the nation, trying to figure out questions around food distribution and how districts across the nation can help to distribute devices, just everything real time that everyone's figuring out. So that's what we want to be able to share, what we know, and get a sense of what's top of mind for you all. So I just want to start off, the first thing is when we kind of organized to have this call, we were still in this land of, are we just going to be closed for 2 weeks? Are we coming back after spring break? That was the big thing, like how long is this cray-cray going to last? Well, now we know, unfortunately, that we are extended and we will be out and not in school until, and I'm using the words at least May 1st, because we still don't know. Unlike many decisions, this isn't a decision as a superintendent that I can make on my own. I attend calls usually on a weekly basis with the county, which is like a lot of different districts like Pleasanton and Dublin and Berkeley, just to get a sense of, you know, what should be the final decision. And then our county superintendent, excuse me, that's my phone in the background, is talks to the state. And so this is really more of a state and a national decision. And all of this is really around, you know, how widespread are we seeing the virus at this point in California? For any of you who've been watching the news, as we know, New York is kind of like the epicenter, the center of this virus right now. We were one of the states that kind of put the strict shelter in place. So right now, our public health officials are just trying to assess, you know, how much have we been able to contain the spread? And so there have been some, you know, predictions that we need to keep some of these shelter in place in orders for the next 4 to 5 weeks. And then we have to assess from there. So I definitely will be sharing as soon as I know if we 100% for sure are going to be returning May 4th or if it's going to be extended. So just so that you know, that's kind of how the chain of command of decisions is, that each district is working with their county superintendent of education, the county superintendent of education in Alameda County, that's our county, her name is Karen Monroe. She works with the public health for the county of Alameda. So there are lots of conversations to get a sense of, you know, what is the danger, what is the impact in our particular county. I think right now, Santa Clara County has some of the highest number of cases right now. And then from those conversations, our county superintendent of education has been meeting with other county superintendents, and they together have been making a decision in connection with Tony Thurmond, who is like the superintendent of the state. So I just wanted to make sure you guys had a sense of, you know, who the heck is making these decisions, who's telling us we can't come back to school. You know, if this isn't something, in most cases, me as a superintendent of this district, I can just make the call. But since this is a health crisis nationwide, I have to make decisions in coordination with other entities. So that's really the biggest update, is that we are going to be remaining and not returning to school until May 1st. I know my kids are feeling it. My son's outside now playing basketball, blowing off some steam. But it is important as much as you can to stay inside and practice social distancing. Other than that, it's like we have the shelter in place order. And if everybody's still roaming about, then, you know, we're kind of still at a point where we could be potentially spreading the virus. So I will stop there. And I think we're gonna kind of continue on. And then towards the end, I believe, answer questions. Obviously, feel free to populate the chat with anything that's coming, that's on top for you. So I think I'm passing it back to Sam and Jessica.
Yes, so we also want to remind folks that, so if we head to the next slide, or the slide before. Sorry. Yes, this one. We want to remind folks that we'll be collecting questions, so you're still able to like input your questions in the chat box. We also just want to remind folks that if you're clicking the chat button, you can type in your questions. We're taking note of these questions and sharing it to the panelists, so you don't have to just wait until the Q&A session. But if you see here, we identified like 5 areas of topics that we feel are most important. So the first one is access to materials. Second one, impact on grading, impact on testing. The fourth one is impact on graduation. And the fifth one is questions from 12th grade students about college entrance, acceptance. And so these are gonna be the 4 topics that we'll be focusing on, and there will be like sub questions to follow it. And I'll pass it to Jessica to talk a little bit more about it.
Yes, there will also be a open Q&A at the end. So there's already submitted questions, but there'll also be a time for you guys to be able to connect with these partnerships. Connect with these panelists. So we can go ahead and pass the mic to Sandra.
Hey everyone, good morning. My name is Sandra Aguilera. I will take you through the access to materials. So we have some questions. How can students access materials from their teachers during the closures? What do I do if I want to contact a teacher, counselor, or staff at my school? How can OUSD schools and teachers help students stay on track with their learning and what teachers are assigning while having to navigate this crisis at home? How can schools provide a flexible schedule to support students during this time, given the varied situations students face? What can I do if I need the internet at home? What can I do if I don't have a computer at home? Will my attendance be affected because of school closures? So for the first 2 questions, we have the next slide. So next slide, please. If you take a look at the slide, you can see that we have ways for students to access materials. So the website that's listed at the top will take you to this page. And the page reflects all of the assignments that teachers have provided. So you would click on your school site, and every school has different ways for you to connect to the work that your teacher has provided. We have been giving out guidance and directions to your teachers that say that no new work should be assigned. So it's the same work that you had worked on prior to us closing schools on Friday, March 13th. You would be given review work and a means to make up any work that was outstanding, but you would not be given new assignments. So you can contact your teachers through email. Some have even given out their contact information. So our staff is working. No one is off right now, so you can contact teachers and counselors. and they should be able to get back to you either through email or if they've given out another way of contacting them through possibly a phone number. Now, in terms of computer and internet access, we will start to distribute devices on April 8th. Now, this is going to be different for every single school site. What is happening right now is that we're asking teachers, counselors, and other school staff to call all families to find out if they have access to a device and if they have internet access. So every school will be putting forth their plan to distribute devices once we come back from spring break. And that will start taking place on April 8th. The dates will be different depending on the school site because different school sites have different staff that can come on certain days. So they will be asking principals, other support staff, your security officers, custodians to come to the campus so that way we can open up the building. There will be strict directions for students and families to come to the campus so that way everything is safe. We don't want to have people, interacting in a way that we're not supposed to right now. So that is going to come out soon from your school site. The next thing is there are options from Tech Exchange, and the information is there. It's also posted in different places on our website. You can call Tech Exchange. They're a group that helps provide free computers to students. And they can help you by talking to you to see what you need. And then they would need to talk to a family member, maybe a parent or a guardian to get the information that they need. They would provide a time for you to either pick up the device or they would set up a time for them to drop it off at your house. There are certain circumstances where they are working that through with your family. And for attendance, there is no negative impact on attendance during school. So it's not counted against you. So I do want to just reiterate that you're not penalized for not being able to do the work that your teachers are assigning. It is all work to keep you at the same level and giving you a review time for that content that you learned prior to us having to close schools. And the next person, next slide, please.
Good morning. Hi, it's Lucia Moritz. I'm the high school network superintendent. Just want to echo everyone before me that I'm glad we're having this time to have this discussion. So we wanted to talk about some of the questions that have come up about grading. And these questions we've been grappling with behind the scenes as a team as well to try to figure out answers to. So some of the questions that have come up was how will students' grades be affected? Will I receive grades for the weeks before schools closed? Will I earn credits for the spring semester? Every school and every teacher is assigning material and assigning grades in different ways. Is it supposed to be the same for every school and every grade level? And how will students in credit recovery courses be able to make up their classes? Can we go to the next slide, please? So in terms of grades before closure, students will receive grades for the work that was in progress completed prior to Friday, March 13th. In terms of the grades during the closures, just to echo what Sandra said, students will not receive credit or be penalized for any complete or incomplete work during the closure. And a lot of this has to do is that we want to ensure that students have equitable access. And if we can't ensure that every student has equitable access to work during a school closure, then we have to make sure that we are not penalizing students for work during this time. In terms of grades going forward, this is some of the area that we're still exploring to understand what is going to be happening. As of right now, we know schools are going to be closed to at least May 1st, and depending on how long that will be moving forward, will determine the plan that we put into place in terms of how we're thinking about grading moving forward. We also have a question about credit recovery. Depending on the type of course that you're in credit recovery, because some of you are in traditional courses for your credit recovery classes, those will be the same approach as some of your other coursework. In terms of Apex, if you have an online credit recovery in Apex, we have to make sure that there's equitable access to technology in Apex. And so we're looking at ways to be able to push out some of the Apex work that allow people to still do some enrichment through Apex as well. And I'm going to also let Elizabeth, who's on the team as well, jump in as well.
Hi, everyone. I just want to echo appreciation for student leaders for having us. And yeah, I just want to recognize that I know that this is a stressful time and this is a lot of anxiety. Questions around like grades and credits are really important, and it really is a moving target. So as we get more information, we're able to make a better plan. And I know for students and parents, that's hard to hear because we want clear answers. But knowing when we come back, ensuring that students have time at school again with their teachers, all of those factors kind of determine our best course of action for making sure that students can get credit and get what they need. But I do want to assure students to not feel like I did all this work the weeks before and now schools are closed. Like, that isn't gone, that's still there. We sent communication out yesterday really telling school leaders and teachers, please make sure any work that students completed before schools closed is in your grade books and accounted for. So when we have a better sense of sort of the lay of the land and kind of like what our timeline is going to be, we'll think about how to like implement that. But please rest assured that your grades are going to be, the work you've done is going to be accounted for.
And I just want to reiterate, we're really working hard to make sure that you are not penalized during school closures, that we're working hard to support all students and making sure that everyone is still on track to graduation. And with this, we're going to pass it on to impact on testing.
Hi, everyone. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Vin. I just want to echo everything that's been said by everyone. Thank you, student leaders, for hosting this and making this happen. There are a lot of questions that are out there at this point, and we will do our best to make sure that we address the questions. In particular, impact on testing, the questions that we've gotten so far are, what about statewide tests like SBAC and LPAC? What about college entrance exams and AP exams I have already registered for? You can go for it. Next slide. Well, I take state tests and college exams, college entrance exams. Statewide tests have been suspended at this point in time. For college board exams like the SAT, the tests in May have been canceled at this point in time. The ones that have been scheduled for June, they are still open at this point in time, pending the outcome of COVID and where we are at that point in time. College Board will be sending more information, and as we get more information, we'll make sure that we update you on that piece. For AP testing at this point, AP testing, last communication from them as of yesterday, they are thinking about going online testing. It's going to be a 45-minute test, and it will be actually be done online and remotely. In terms of the process, procedures, and how this is going to happen at this point in time, the College Board and AP administrators, they're working on this process, and they'll share the information with us. There will also be 2 different testing dates for AP exams for those who are signed up for the AP exams. April 3rd is the tentative date at this point in time that the College Board has shared with us when more information will be coming out for AP exams. And I think the other piece I just want to share for those who have signed up for AP and now are thinking about maybe not taking it, you do have that option also if you do not want to take that exam, that you can get a refund. And going back real quick for SATs, for those who did sign up for SAT, register for the May exam and the ones in March, you can also and will get a refund because those have been canceled. So make sure we share 2 links where you can go in for more information. Go to College Board SAT updates and College Board AP updates. Please make sure that you are contacting them on a regular basis and checking out the website, because again, what they've shared with us, just to make sure that you get this information, go on there, call them also if you have questions, and there's also an email that you can also shoot them so that they can get back to you with further questions about refunds, if that is what you want for the AP exams too.
All right, I'll take us through the impact on graduation. So the questions that we received: will graduation be delayed? Will there be end of the year celebrations and events like promotion and graduation ceremonies? Will students have to attend school in the summer? Is it true that the school year will be extended? Next slide, please. Okay, so we hope to have end of the year events celebrations, even if it is at a different time and not at the usual time that was scheduled. This will be, you know, when we can come back to school, but we do want to make sure that there are end of the year events that can celebrate our graduating class. We are waiting on further information from the state and county about any extensions of shelter in place and for a projected date for returning to school. So I know this doesn't feel comforting. You want an answer to say this is the exact date that we are planning to come back to school. We don't know how well all of this will turn out until we get an update on the number of cases. We have to do our best to shelter in place. I'm seeing in some of the comments that our students are wanting to see their friends, and this is a scary situation. Totally understand those feelings. And so look for other ways that you can contact your friends by maybe doing FaceTime or a Zoom call. That's become very popular these days. But we currently don't have an exact date for returning to school. And so we all have to do our best to stay inside and try to make connections to people as much as possible. And finally, at the moment, there has been no decision to extend the school year. We will continue to provide regular updates as we get new information. And every day we're getting new information. So please stay tuned to all of the robocalls, all of the community emails and announcements that we make. Because as soon as we get information, we prepare the information and send it out to all of you. So next, Vin or Elizabeth.
I can read the questions, and Elizabeth and I will address this. Questions from 12th grade students. Will this impact my four-year college applications? What about my community college application? How do I get an official transcript mailed to a school or scholarship? Who do I contact if I have questions about my credits, college applications, or need support? Next slide.
I can kind of jump into these, Vin. So how do I get support? So if you need support, if you need assistance, as Sandra said, folks are working. We're working from home and we're working remotely, but your teachers, your counselors miss you, want to support you, so they're available to help you. So if you need support with some of these areas, you can contact your college advisor, your school counselor at your school. You can also, if you're not able to reach them or need help getting connected, you can also email counseling@ousd.org, and we will either respond to your question or direct your question to the right person. You might also be getting messages, emails, invitations to join a Google Classroom from your school counselor, because they're also trying to figure out how to do their work remotely and virtually. In terms of transcripts, we have district registrars whose job is primarily to support our former students. So like former OUSD students who need a copy of a transcript or a diploma. So during the school closure time, they're expanding their work to also serve our current students. So most students, if your college that you're applying to needs a scholarship, you would walk over to the office, walk over to your counselor. So now there is a link there. So you can go to that website and essentially like order your transcript and where it needs to be mailed. and our district registrars will take care of that for you. So that's for an official transcript that a scholarship or a university is asking for. If you just need a copy of your transcript for other purposes or someone who doesn't need an official one, you can email your counselor and they can email you a PDF of your transcript. In terms of four-year colleges, we recognize this is a source of stress. I've done all this work, I've applied to college, and now my schools are closed. What do I do? So again, your coursework is in progress. We have been communicating with our four-year college systems. They're in a similar situation to us where they're waiting to see what happens, and we want answers from them. And they're also in a kind of a wait and see situation. We don't expect there to be complications with students in four-year college admissions. What we've heard specifically from like our UC partners is we are committing to kind of our responsibility. We admitted students. If you do your responsibility of graduating them and making sure they're completing their coursework. We don't know if there's going to be delays or extensions of their deadlines. As of right now, they're maintaining their May 1st statement of intent to register deadline, where students have to tell them what college they are committing to, and haven't seen any changes to like their final transcript deadline. So I think as things move and we see that those are going to be barriers, we'll definitely advocate for them to reconsider that. In terms of community college, we are right in the middle of the community college enrollment time. So I know for graduating students who have community college as their plan, we are right in the season where you'd be getting support from your schools. So the community college applications opened last week. So you can reach out to college advisors and counselors at your school. They can do Google Meet or Zoom meetings to support you with that. We sent them a guide, a student guide and a counselor facing guide on kind of like step-by-step ways to support you all through the enrollment process, and latest information we've gotten from Peralta on what they're doing as they move their services virtually as well. So again, this is uncharted territories for us like it is for our college partners, but we've gotten commitment from our community college partners that they'll be having counseling appointments online. They'll do Zoom calls with folks who need support. So linked in the slides and in the FAQ guide, we have a student facing guide. So if you want to get a head start and jump into your community college process, you're able to do that as well. Then do you want to talk about athletes?
Yep. For scholar athletes, I think one of the best advice we can give you at this point in time is just to make sure that you, one, check in with your coaches, make sure that you are registered with the NCAA. If you haven't done so, we've also shared 2 links for you to go in there and help you create your accounts. If you do need support with creating the accounts on NCAA in order for you to be eligible for Division 1, 2, or 3 participation, we can also support you. First, make sure you contact the coaches. We'll be working with them and also athletic directors to make sure that this is this information is out to them. And I think the other piece I want to go back real quick about the 4-year colleges. In communication with College Board, they've also shared with us that they have been communicating with higher ed institutions to give them an update of where they are with testing. So for those who are concerned about your test, the SAT or AP exams, College Board has been in communications with the universities around this area. Their other advice to us to share with you is to make sure that you are also calling and checking in with the universities if you have questions about what the status is with your application or where you are with your application process. So contact your college directly if you have questions about that. And that was the advice from College Board. Okay, next.
Okay, it's back to me again. I know this is information many of you already know, but we just want to reiterate that we will continue our food distribution even through spring break. We have 12 sites that we're using to distribute food. Today is actually one of our food distribution days, and I was receiving some text messages and photos around how well it's going and how many families that we're serving. I have a couple of just numbers and statistics in terms of the number of families. Let's see, the first day we served about 25,000 meals. The second day, about 50,000 meals. And we are now up to about 100,000 meals. So there really it's been actually a great way for folks in the community, not only our food service workers and teachers and principals, but we've had, as many of you have heard, a lot of support from foundations and partners. So you'll see all of the 12 sites that are on the slides. Please get the word out. We definitely want to make sure folks are taking advantage of this service. And as we said before, we're learning how to improve our social distancing as we're distributing food. This morning, I think I mentioned that my chief of staff was on a call with districts around the nation. Pretty much every urban school district in the United States is trying to figure out how to make sure that food is still getting in the hands of students and families. And so everyone is kind of sharing best practices in order to keep things safe and healthy, just given the pandemic that we're under. Next slide, please. And this is just an information that we have limited but still open school-based health centers. So the information is here. You'll see to the right of the slide which health centers, the contact information, and the hours. All of this information is posted on our website. So please reach out and use these services even during the period where schools are closed. Okay. I think I'm passing it back to Sam and Jessica.
Sam and Jessica start. This is also Jody Talkington, another staff member supporting with the hosting the logistics. So you've heard quite a bit of answers to questions that came in before the webinar. We will be posting this deck with all of the links and all of the written answers there. There's the recording of this webinar will also be shared, so you can share it with other friends who weren't able to attend. We'll also have the deck translated. But we do have a few more minutes at the end of the call if you want to ask. We're collecting the questions you're putting in the chat already, but we do also have the capability to allow some folks to ask a question out loud. So I see there are 3 attendees that have their hands raised. And so if you can go to the bottom of your slide, you can raise your hand if you want to ask an out loud question. So we'll take a few questions. I see Shelly Smith. So if you still want to ask your question, oh, she dropped off. I see Malmbergs. If you would like to ask a question, I will unmute you now and allow you to ask to the group.
Thank you, Jody. So at this time, like Jody had said, we are taking questions for our Q&A session. We had started to collect questions in the chat, but yes, if you want to ask your question out loud, feel free to raise your hand. And so I guess we can start if Jessica wants to ask the first question for Superintendent Kyla.
Sure, let's go ahead. So this goes for Superintendent Kyla. As said, how will updates be shared?
Updates will be shared. We'll continue to push out information through robocalls, through our website. I will be working to see when we can have like another one of these webinars scheduled. Through information to our school sites as well, and through various partners. So we'll have this posted on our website. That's going to be kind of the mega hub for everything, but through emails and through robocalls and through videos. So we're going to plan to use a lot of different communication. I think this is a type of situation where we're going to be over communicating, and communication is going to change probably daily as we get new information. So what I've been doing, for instance, I received some information from the College Board. You know, I'll be sharing that out, whether it's through ACC, the high school network team. So when I get information, you know, I can push it out as well. So just be looking for all of those different kind of access point for communication. And then if you all have other ways that we're not doing that you think could be helpful to get information out, definitely share. Like if there's certain networks or kind of convenings that, you know, you guys have access to students where we can give you all information and then you can help push it out, that would be great as well.
Thank you.
I believe, thank you. So we have a lot of questions, and I believe that we're going to alternate between our panelists. Student directors, also feel free to jump into conversation. So this next question is for Sandra. Is prom and graduation going to happen?
So I answered somewhat this question a little bit earlier around the celebrations. We want to provide an opportunity to have your graduation ceremony and your proms. The big question will be the timing. We have to figure out what approximate month we can come back to school and then make plans from there. And that's what is hard because a lot of committees have already done the work to secure the location for your graduation, secure the location for your prom, and set all of the details up. And because we had to put all of that on hold, it is going to be some work to set that up again quickly once we come back from school closures. So we want to, we'll work with the different committees that are set up. We'll work with your principals and your teachers because everybody wants to see that, you know, class of 2020 have their graduation, and we still want to have the festivities, the celebrations, and the proms. But you'll need to work with us and be flexible about the details because you might not be able to have exactly what was planned originally given the short notice. But we will make every effort to work with the different companies, the different organizations to organize a way for everyone to celebrate. So we do want that to happen. We definitely feel for all of you needing to stay at home. You're not used to having to stay at home and not have contact with your friends. So we'll do everything that we can to make sure that there's ways to celebrate your year and your accomplishments.
Thank you, Sandra. So we're going to go ahead and allow some students to be able to share their questions with all the panelists. So Jody, if you can please unmute Deja Coakley, I believe. All right, Deja, you can go ahead and talk and share your question.
This is a question about the teachers. Are they still, even after the whole process goes on, are they still going to be working from home, even if we go back to school?
I mean, what if,
So I can answer this question. This is Sandra. Our teachers, once we are all able to go back to school, they will also go back to school. Right now, yes, they are currently working from home. They will be able to answer your questions. You know, today is one of the last days before we're technically on spring break. So we are encouraging people to take the spring break and then come back on April 6th, back to answering and interacting with students. So we are observing the week that's about to be off. So as soon as all of us can come back to work, actually physically at your school sites, we will be there. But for this time, because of shelter in place, we are asking for all of our teachers, counselors, everyone that works for our district to stay home because that will help, curb and slow down the spread of COVID-19. So as soon as we can all be back at school and it's safe, we will be.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Deja. What about Sharon, I believe?
Hi. Yeah, I'm wondering if you're only looking at the schoolwork through March 16th, how is all the schoolwork that they're doing right now going to be applied to their current grade? And are their teachers expecting, like, if they don't do it right now? I know you said it can't be considered incomplete. Some of the teachers, do all the teachers know that? Because there's a few teachers that are a little bit more demanding than that. And so I'm just wondering if they're working so hard at home, writing essays and things like this, is it going to count?
So right now the work does not count. The issue that we have is not every student and family can be held accountable to do the work because they may not have a device or they may not have the internet. So the work can only help a student, but it will not act against them. I think there were some questions around, making up work. That is fine. We'll have to make sure that our teachers know that, they will, upon returning, still need to give students the opportunity to make up work. Because again, it is really an access issue for our families. And the comments around, and I've seen them in the chat room as well, of teachers knowing, we're starting a weekly update for teachers because, in the beginning we had this mindset of we'll be back after spring break. And now that we're seeing it's actually being extended, we're having to change the way that we're thinking around the distance learning planning. And so for our teachers, we're sending out an update today. There is a website that is made specifically for our teachers. It's called Teacher Central, and they will be getting weekly updates on the information from us, so that way they have it firsthand. I have seen questions from teachers and principals, and we're answering them just to let them know that no, you can't, be grading for their work right now. You can't be giving 0 for assignments. So we will keep communicating that out, and if there's any student that gets a 0, they should contact their principal because we will work to adjust that.
So there's no penalty if they don't, if they're not able to do the work, but what if they are able to do the work? Say like a student has a lower grade and they're working really hard to get it up. Can the work that they're doing right now be applied towards that?
Only if it's making up work.
Okay, thanks.
So, looking at the other questions that are kind of connecting to what you just answered, there's 2 questions. So this is from a student: how can I improve my grades? Can I make up work? And the other question is, will grades for the end of the year be pass, fail, or letter grades?
I can start answering this question as well. So we have been talking about this as our superintendent discussed. There is a county office that we work with to make sure that we're following the guidance. I was actually talking, to the county office yesterday around this question around pass and fail. The biggest thing that we want to make sure is that the decision to either give students a pass-fail does not hurt them in the future when they are trying to apply for colleges. And so we've been reaching out, our county has been reaching out to the colleges to be firm about, for a Cal State, what they are going to accept if we give a pass-fail. Does that actually help or hurt our students? the same for any UCs, the same for any community colleges. So we are still working on that answer. We don't want to make a quick decision that later on impacts the future applications for our students. But it is something that we're considering doing, and we'll keep everybody updated. But at this point, we don't have a firm answer because we are trying to weigh all the possibilities. And anyone else from staff can also chime in if they'd like.
We definitely want to echo that. We don't want to make a decision that inadvertently hurts students. Letter grades are pretty important in terms of NCAA eligibility and some other factors around UC, CSU. So we are looking at maintaining the letter grades. And also I did notice there were some questions around seniors who might be close to graduation but fear that they're a little bit off track. Maybe they just need to bring up their grade in a couple areas. We've been working behind the scene and we'll be reaching out with counselors. We want to make sure that we have a plan in place to support those students because we know these couple months are really critical for seniors. And so we want to ensure that we're supporting our students who are not just on track to be going to four-year, but some students who might just need like a little bit of that extra support to get to that finish line. I apologize, my 2-year-old is running around in the background. So I just want you to know we've been looking at all those different scenarios, including students who might need a lot of extra support to get to the finish line of how we can make sure that this doesn't impact your ability to graduate.
Thank you. And so before we take more questions from other students, and while we're still on the topic of grading and testing, this question is, will we have finals? This is open for anyone to answer.
I think that will really be determined based off of what happens beyond May 1st, because usually it happens, you know, in May, towards the end of May. So it's really going to be dependent on if we're back in school or not back in school. So I think that's an answer we're still going to have to flesh out and figure out.
Thank you. This is a quick question. I think this is open to everybody too. How is OUSD going to teach non-English speaking students and families that speak Arabic, Chinese? How do kids that don't speak and understand English can get their online education?
I'll start to answer that question. So if for students that have that speak different languages, if you look at the content in the website, there are different apps and different lesson plans for students in different languages. So that is a support that we are extending. There's some teachers that are, posting, as an example, videos, and they are speaking in the language of their students. So that's available. But a lot of our apps can help with the language needs of students. And we are still asking for our teachers and counselors to talk to students. So if there is a need or any sort of special support that could be discussed with the teacher. I do know, like as an example, Skyline, they have a newcomer section, and the teachers are still interacting and talking with their students to give them the support and to give them some guidance on how to do the work that's being assigned. So there are systems for getting help. It does require some interaction between teachers and students.
Thank you, Sandra. I know this might be our last question, but I want to bring up our middle schoolers. We do have an RJ and ACC student leader. Imane, if you can please, Jody, if you can please disconnect Imane's connector with.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I have a question about 8th grade promotion. Like, how would that happen?
So
We do, go ahead.
go ahead, Sandra.
And we do want to make sure that our 8th graders, and I also saw a comment in the chat room around 5th graders. So we do want to have all of our celebration activities. It will not be around the same time that they were originally planned. And, you know, there has been a lot of planning that's gone on at the school site by maybe a committee of teachers, you know, family members and students to organize the event. And all of that preparation has been, you know, put forward to do reservations for maybe a facility or food reservations and other types of details. We do want to make sure that we still have those events for students. They may just not be at the same or on the same date. It might have to be moved considerably depending on when we get back. And it may not be exactly the way that was originally planned. But we do want to make sure that we celebrate all of our students for their promotions, you know, 5th to 6th grade, 8th grade to 9th grade, and then our seniors.
Okay, thank you everybody. So we are coming to a close. I just want to thank everybody for joining us. And we realize that there are so many more questions that needs to be answered. But we will be following up and updating folks. Are there any last word from panelists to students? We're gonna be opening up this these last few minutes for folks to say a few words.
So real quick, we'll be having to reschedule. We might reschedule this again to have more questions answered. There's also, you can also ask these questions to the panelists. Their contact information will be on the slides. So we'll keep you guys updated.
I just wanted to once again thank the student leadership team for organizing this, and all the participants on the line. Thank you for your questions. Sandra, the high school team, thank you all for joining in. I just encourage you as students to, you know, hang in there, spend time with your family, even though I know sometimes we all want to strangle our family because we're in such close contact every single day. And, you know, use this virtual space as a time for you all to just connect with each other. Sometimes just talking about your anxiety and your stress and what you're thinking about just helps you get it off your chest. And we look forward to connecting with you again and sharing the updates that we have. So have a good weekend, practice social distancing, but try to get out of the house as well.
Are there some resources that students should check out for more information? I know that we're gonna be sending a lot of this information out on the OUSD website, but are there information that we should be sharing with students?
You mean in addition to what we're sharing today, Sam? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Yes, I would say, I think Raquel is still on the line. Maybe that's something that you all can talk about, because some of the information is broadly for everybody. Maybe you all can think about information that you think is specific for students, and we can figure out a way to have a place specifically for that. Everything's available on the website, but as we continue to have these conversations, if there are certain other pieces of information that you think is particular for students and high school students in particular, we can figure out a way to have a space for that as well. I know that this particular presentation and webinar, I know you guys are sharing it on your Instagram page. I think it's also being shared on the equity portion of the website as well. So we can continue to evolve and figure out the best way to drive students to these conversations and information as we go forward.
Thank you. So we'll be closing out. I just want to thank all of our panelists and everybody that joined. Please feel free to follow us on Instagram at All City Council OUSD. And thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.